Number 15. Who needs feminism? This is the most recent video on the list, being released back on October 1st. Yeah, PragerU has been getting very boring the past 6 months, either just repeating shit or getting so vague that it's just confusing.
I am an anti-feminist.
It's not like if they didn't speak up, they would have gotten the right to vote.
Take a look at your Bible.
Please don't use the Bible when talking about women's rights.
The church created a version of marriage intended to protect women.
Am I the only one who thinks that's strangely homophobic?
Now, the developments of modernity.
Part of that teaching involved making the case for abortion. These girls needed to know that they had the right to make decisions about their own bodies. Surely, I thought, that's empowerment.
Can you even physically close your mouth all the way?
But one day I asked myself,
and we call those people assholes.
They were in a rush to get back to work.
Was this video pro treating fast food employees like assholes? Like they look to this video and are like, that employee really was being a bitch.
And they had a right to have their meal served the way they ordered it.
You should know better than telling these kids they're special little snowflakes.
If you wish to affirm here an ethnic or racial identity or a national identity other than American, you will have to attend another school.
But didn't you say every high school principal should say this? If they do, where are these students going to go?
I will not authorize clubs that divide students.
Stop doing it. That goes for everybody.
We just can't agree that this obviously absurd joke is funny. We can't even agree that it's obviously absurd.
I can't even agree with you that it's a joke.
During the run-up to the release of the movie Black Panther,
The question they were asked is if adults should be allowed to screw 12-year-olds, so that black guy just needs to run.
You might be for the death penalty and your cousin might be against it.
Well, Dennis Prager doesn't seem to be very tolerant of people who are against the death penalty.
You might be against a $15 minimum wage.
He was so fucking baked, he thinks he's on Neptune.
Whatever differences we have, tolerating others' opinions is a prerequisite to a functioning and free society.
Unless they think that Video Brinquedo was a quality animation studio. No room for tolerance there.
America itself was built on a foundation of tolerance.
When you ask a man what they want to do for a career, you don't expect them to say father and husband.
In fact, anytime someone has the temerity to suggest that a woman might want to look for a husband while in college, as a very successful Princeton grad recently did in a letter to the school's newspaper, feminists go nuts.
I couldn't find the full letter because Princeton took it down, but from what I could read, it sounded a bit elitist. It was kind of like, hey ladies, pick a husband here because if you don't, you might have to go with one of the stupid ones later. But again, I could totally be wrong.
A new feminism will value and respect all responsible choices.
What if my job pays less than the minimum wage of some other countries?
That talent might be teaching, or making music, or banking, or starting a small business, or raising a family.
Still need a job to raise a family.
We're all different. We have different talents, different temperaments.
Wow, you really don't think women can be leaders, do you?
Yet, the current trend is to feminize young men in the hopes of achieving some utopian notion of equality and peace.
Some men like being feminine, but I just want you to look at this chart. Really look at it. It's nonsense. It's just there to make them look smart.
And the school classroom, boys are invariably the problem.
Are you over 18? Then you're a man, no matter how you act or how you live your life.
Sociologist Elizabeth Gorman concludes that married men are more likely to value higher-paying jobs than their single peers.
Yeah, a high-paying job when you're single is nice. A high-paying job when you're married is an, oh, thank God I can feed my kids this month.
There is evidence that employers prefer and promote men who are married.
You can still buy your daughter a doll and your son a truck if they really want one.
Or in a North Carolina school district where students can no longer be called boys and girls, but only students.
That girl is slightly taller than that boy, and as we all know, males are taller than females on average. PragerU is SJW cultural Marxist confirmed.
Or in college dorms where co-ed bathrooms.
I'm Michael Knowles, host of The Michael Knowles Show for Prager University.
But before we get to number one, here are some dishonorable mentions. An inconvenient truth about the Democratic and Republican parties and why did the Democratic South become Republican. Female Morgan Freeman explains that Democrats are racist because they were the ones in the South, even starting the KKK, while the Republicans were the ones in the North abolishing slavery. She doesn't seem to realize that things can change over 150 years. Oh, never mind. She says that the South's values have changed, not being focused on race, but instead small government values. And yet somehow Democrats can't change their values. Hollywood wants your money, and your mind. Very smart man and also owner of the most viewed Twitter of Quebec City moss shooter, Ben Shapiro, explains to us that movies and TV shows have morals and messages that they try to give, and this is treated as some kind of revelation. The least diverse place in America. Charlie Kirk says universities are filled with left-wing propaganda, and then says they should teach right-wing propaganda. What does diversity have to do with science? Why? Why are you people so against women and black people being in STEM fields? Why you should be a nationalist?
Adolf Hitler was no nationalist.
Why be happy? Dennis basically says to hide your emotions to make other people feel better. What is net neutrality?
All those data-heavy movies and videos clog up the pipe. To combat this massive resource drain, the ISPs floated the idea of creating fast lanes, bandwidth that would be dedicated to the big users in exchange for higher usage rates. You use more, you pay more.
I think that about sums it up. Sex matters. This came out just before I released part 1. It's mostly just more of the same boring shit we've seen before that throws all women and men into the same camp as if we all think the same way. But there's one line that just pisses me off.
If sex doesn't mean anything, why would any woman feel violated by an uninvited touch?
So, no women want consensual sex outside of marriage because they don't like non-consensual touching. Fuck you. And finally, a tie between He Wants You and men and the power of the visual.
Men get turned on by any side of female flesh on almost any female.
No, we don't, Dennis. No one is going to be turned on by a finger, and attractiveness is different to every person. You people hate men. There are a lot more I could pick, but I don't want this to go on forever. So let's move on to... Number 1. Dear celebrities, no one cares what you think.